fingers of right hand in left palm and vice versa. Rinse hands with running water. Dry hands thoroughly with paper towel. Use paper towel to turn off tap. Dispose paper towel in a waste container. Your hands are now safe. Hand washing with alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Apply the alcohol-based hand sanitizer in a cupped hand, covering all surfaces. Rub hands palm to palm. Right palm over left dorsum with interlaced fingers and vice versa. Palm to palm and fingers interlaced. Backs of fingers to opposing palms with interlocked fingers. Rotational rubbing of left thumb clasped in right palm and vice versa. Rotational rubbing backwards and clasped fingers of right hand and in left palm and vice versa. Allow hands to air dry and your hands are safe.
The things I've changed in my life to guarantee the health of those around me is practicing social distancing. This means if I'm in the same area with other people, I'm learning how to keep my distance between them by at least 1 meter. If you're wondering what 1 meter is, it's actually 3 steps, or the length of a broomstick. I've also reduced my movements by staying at home and only going out when absolutely necessary. I'm making the most of the situation by remaining connected with my loved ones, staying in shape, and discovering a new hobby. Reducing my movements gives me a better chance of keeping others safe and for them to keep me safe. My name is Dakori Egusi-Nakonde. Let's do our best to be safe for you, for others, and for your family.
This message is brought to you by the United Nations in conjunction with the Federal Government of Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Health, and the NCDC. Take responsibility. Stay safe.
Baba Risi, you been dey sleep when government motor show for inside area this afternoon o. Now so them take enter Sisi Clara house wey dey the other side. They come comot with some kind medical equipment. But e be like say she don't catch the coronavirus wey people dey yarn about o. We sef we no safe for inside area again o. Kai! I no go even pass that her house again.
Mama Risi, haba. Shey you no know say e dey good make government to check everybody wey they suspect say they don't contact with people wey don't carry the virus? You no mean say they get am now. Even if to say the person get am, e mean say dem go just carry am make e collect treatment. If person get the coronavirus, e no mean say the person don die. Person fit still recover. Or when they don't suspect say somebody get am, dem go do test. Dem fit even treat the person fast. Plenty people wey catch the virus, after dem collect treatment, dem recover. When these government people come, make we allow them, make them test you.
This message now from the Federal and State Ministries of Health, Ministry of Information, NCDC, and them partners them.
This is Business and Economy. I am Ile Emeje. Gross domestic product, GDP, is the aggregate production of all goods and services within a geographical entity for a period of 1 year. It represents the volume of economic performance of any country, including that of Nigeria. Recently, the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, reported that the Nigerian gross domestic products contracted in the second quarter of 2020 by minus 6.10%. The NBS attributed the decline to significantly lower levels of both domestic and international economic activities from nationwide lockdown. aimed at containing the COVID-19 pandemic. On today's edition of your program, we are looking at the effects of the drop in the nation's GDP and possible way out. My guest is a public analyst, business and economic development consultant, and will join us after the business news to discuss on the fall of the country's GDP and possible solutions. Stay with us. For the first time in more than 3 years, the Nigerian economy contracts in the second quarter of 2020 as the gross domestic product (GDP) fell by 6.10%. This was contained in the GDP report for the second quarter of 2020 released by the National Bureau of Statistics (NBA). Second recession in 4 years. The federal government has released a sum of 14.92 billion naira pensioners fund for the payment of accrued rights for retired Nigerians under the contributory pension scheme. National Pension Commission (PENCOM) confirmed the release via its verified official Twitter handle, noting that the amount covers for 4 months arrears. PENCOM applauded the federal government for ensuring that the accrued rights arrears are cleared, while thanking the affected retirees of the Treasury-funded agencies for their patience. The accrued pension rights are employees' benefits for their years of service to the country from June 2004, when the Pension Reform Act became law. The Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS) has generated a sum of 1.29 trillion naira from taxes in the second quarter of 2020, with excess of 19.15 billion naira of the target of 1.27 trillion naira. This was made available in the second quarter performance report published by the Federal Inland Revenue Service. The report stated that 34.2% of the tax revenue was petroleum profit tax of 440.3 billion naira, while the remaining 65.80% came in as non-oil taxes with 848.1 billion naira. The report further indicated that total collection in the second quarter increased by 8.2% compared to the 1.19 trillion naira generated in the previous quarter, and 8.01% decrease compared to the 1.4 trillion naira generated in the corresponding quarter of 2019. The report highlighted that companies' income tax stood at 324.3 billion naira, gas income tax was 77.7 billion naira, collections by the Nigeria Customs was 81.62 billion naira, non-import value-added tax amounted to 245.6 billion naira, stamp duty generated was 62.6 billion naira, while capital gain was 617.4 million naira. Welcome. Our guest is a business and an economic development consultant, Mr. Akintunde Ogunsola. You are welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Ogunsola, each time there are figures rolled out by the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, either on GDP or inflation or the manufacturers' purchasing index, as the case may be, by the Central Bank of Nigeria, a lot of Nigerians begin to wonder how this figures are generated, can you tell us what method is used at arriving at these figures, particularly the recent figure on the gross domestic product of minus 6.10%?
All right, thank you very much for the question. For the GDP, the figure has some ingredients that is being calculated together to determine the GDP. It's a worldwide accepted formula that is used in GDP. One of them is consumption rate. The rate at which people buy goods and services. Economic activities will be springing up. There's a data for that. It's being collected. And also we have the rate of investment. The level of investment in the country, whether foreign direct investment or investment within the geographical area of that state, it also counts. They have data for that. Then the next one is government expenditure, which that is a very huge one that is controllable by government. When government increase their spending, financing real sector, financing small businesses, paying of salaries, this helps economic activities to, to be moving. And that also is another ingredient. So government expenditures also has some data. Then the next one is the level of import and export. If your export is more than your import, then you have a positive figure. But if your import is more than your export, then you have a negative figure. So that's why we are encouraging our people to, try and export more than importing. So when you add all these figures together, it will be equal to the GDP of that country for a particular period.
So if we want to look at them one by one, let's look at the import and the export figure. Like you said, when the import is higher than the export, we are likely the result will be negative, definitely, right? All things being equal. In this case, does it mean that our import has skyrocketed, or is more than, a little bit higher than our export? Then the consumption again, are we talking about staple foods that we buy and the other services within the country for a period of time?
For the import and export, you see, one thing that affects making your import to be higher than your export is the exchange rate. That also comes to play a part, because when you are importing, you import in dollars. And the exchange rate at which you are going to change to buy whatever you are importing, if it's very high, then your import will also shoot up. So the exchange rate also plays a part. That's why I see that the government is trying to stabilize the exchange rate.
And of course, recently, the Central Bank of Nigeria has announced the resumption of the sale of foreign exchange to Bureau de Change operators. Recall that during the pandemic, that is during the first lockdown, the sale to Bureau de Change was suspended by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And thank God, recently they came up that from 31st of this month, they'll resume the sale
just by the resumption of the international flights too. So that will also, these are the activities that boost the economy and the GDP.
The National Bureau of Statistics attributed this whole problem, that is the decline or depreciation or even downturn of the GDP, to the nationwide lockdown, which resulted from the introduction of the coronavirus pandemic in many nations of the world. And I don't know, how can you just explain this?
Yes, very simple. Government is correct with that figure, with that data. The pandemic, the lockdown, or let me say coronavirus came into Nigeria in February, towards the ending of February. I know that before then, since December last year, this virus has been out there from China to Europe to America before coming to Nigeria. Now, these other European countries, they started experiencing their own lockdown since January, which is the first quarter. From Q1, they started their own lockdown. Continued also in Q2. And that made United Kingdom to be in recession now. As we speak, they are in recession now. So they have been in the negative GDP for the past 2 quarters. And it's because of the pandemic. There has been no production. Everywhere is locked down. Everybody's at home. Nobody can spend. Everybody's just spending to survive. So that actually caused that. But for us here, the first quarter was not too much affected because our lockdown started towards the ending of the Q1.
Yeah.
So we had some activities, some economic activities running in the Q1. So that's why we were not in a negative in the Q1. Okay. But in the Q2, 8 weeks was announced by the government as period of lockdown. There was no interstate movement. Everybody was to stay at home. Nothing was moving. And in a quarter, we only have 3 months. Okay. So if 2 months in a quarter, we're all at home, nobody is producing anything, we're only consuming. 3
minus 2 is equal to 1.
So obviously you should expect a negative when the result comes out. So I actually comment, it means that their data is accurate. Okay. But the only thing now is that government in this Q3, because we have 1 month to go for the third quarter, should also see how they will boost spending so that the negative trend do not continue, so that we don't slide into another recession.
Remember that a lot of Nigerians will always have reasons to put a blame on the federal government. A lot of them believe that it is the inactive or, what do I say, reluctancy on the part of the government that has taken the country into recession. Can you just highlight on this?
We are not yet into a recession. Maybe I should start with that. Okay. We only have a negative GDP. Like the last time I was on air, I think last week, I explained a situation where an economy is said to be in recession. That if an economy has a negative GDP for 2 quarters or more, then you can say that they are in a recession. But for Nigeria, just only 1 quarter, we are in a negative GDP, so we are not yet in a recession. Okay. Talking about people's opinion about government not acting and all that, no, I don't think that's true. We could remember the last recession in 2016, 2017. Government came up with some borrowing plans. Government spent on critical infrastructures. The ABUJA-Kaduna railway was completed, and so many things happened, and that helped our activities to move from the negative GDP. And we now went into a positive GDP, and government now came up with a growth plan after that period. And that growth plan has been working, if not for the pandemic that came up and, set us back a little. But with the way government is going, I believe our economists are really trying.
Okay,
the central
now
bank
that the economy is gradually reopening, is it possible for us to reflate the GDP to what it were or even surpass it without sliding into recession? Is it possible?
Yes, it is possible. There is in fact, I'm optimistic that our GDP can go back to the positive, because you could remember as soon as the lockdown was lifted, government palliatives, borrowing plans, the CBN intervention funds, so many things here and there came up. And even recently, the Minister of Youth announced that there will be some funds available for youth development. These are government plans to increase spending, and not just spending alone, increasing spending so that there will be money in the pockets of citizens for them to invest or to purchase goods and services. And these are the ingredients. These are the ingredients that help us to calculate our GDP. Remember,
again, that government has always based reasons for borrowing on the robust side of the GDP, the gross domestic product, claiming that the ratio of debt to GDP is within the World Bank's limits. Within the decline in the size of GDP, is it advisable to continue in the borrowing, even for funding critical infrastructures in the country?
So far, so good. Government has already borrowed. And government actually did the borrowing in the second quarter. Then the effect of that borrowing will begin to reflect in the third quarter, which is now. And you see now, government has borrowed and they've given out funds to critical sectors, to SMEs, to researchers, and also. So in this third quarter, with that kind of spending that government has done, we expect that the GDP this quarter will actually move to the positive. And looking at the borrowing level, the World Bank ratio, government has not yet exceeded the debt. We still have, yes, we have not yet exceeded. We still have some percentage for us to get to the limit. I think I talked about that the last time, that government has not gotten to the limit, but I also advise government that they shouldn't allow us to get to the ceiling. I don't think government will borrow now. Government wants to stabilize on the money that they have borrowed. We have already borrowed, we are not borrowing again. It's how to utilize the funds that we have borrowed that government is actually working on now. And I believe this third quarter, a lot of activities will spring up.
Okay. Looking at the spendings, government spendings on small and medium enterprise and the various sectors of the economy, and then I'm referring to the various intervention programs organized or taken over by the federal government. Don't you also think that there is need for adequate infrastructural framework to monitor and supervise this intervention program so that it will not go in the former way of normal Nigerians?
Corruption.
Some of them may collect this money and begin to marry more wives, while some also will collect the money, begin to buy maybe assets that are not worth buying for the time, instead of critical investment in the economy.
If you may recall, sometime I think in the first quarter, government introduced a platform in the Office of the Accountant General to monitor the expenditure of government on a monthly basis, and it is in the public domain. Government has tried as much as possible to block all the loopholes that all this money goes into people's pockets without any value for the country. And that is the proactiveness of this government. And with that, I don't think there's any money that is going out without having a useful a contract or development that is tied to that such fund. And that is commendable to President Muhammadu Buhari. I think the fight against corruption is actually working gradually, though we are not yet there, but gradually I think it's reducing.
Step by step.
Yes, from where we are coming from. And I believe that these monies are not just going into the winds.
Okay. All right, we'll take a break now and we'll be right back. Don't go away. In case you just joined us, this is Business and Economy, and we have been looking at the recent drop in the nation's gross domestic product. And my guest has been a business and an economic consultant, Mr. Akintunde Ogunsola. Mr. Ogunsola, we were looking at what government is doing before we went on the break. Now, in your opinion, what do you think the government ought to have done that it has not done to boost the productive sector and as well the gross domestic product of the nation?
Yeah, thank you very much. Government has not actually diversified enough.
Think so?
Yes, the economy is not yet diversified. That's why when the oil price went down as a result of this pandemic, the economy was shaking. Everybody started, shouting, hey, the oil price has gone down, there's no money. In fact, we're having barrels of oil on the sea nobody was willing to buy because all the economies that were patronizing us were shut down. So I will advise government to actually diversify more into the mining sector. The gold is there, the uranium, we have tin, we have coal, all these things we need to...
a lot of mineral resources.
Yeah, mineral resources, let's mine them out. These economies that were down, I think this is time for them to actually patronize us. They need some of these mineral resources. And by the time we export these resources, we'll have so much foreign exchange earners for ourselves. And we'll be, we'll have enough fund to finance our budget. Okay,
let us take a look on the taxation. That is the one that many people don't even want to hear. Don't you think that the government will also need to step up in their quest to increase the revenue base or revenue sources for the country from taxation, maybe additional taxation?
You see, that's why I commend this government. It's like they are prophets. We have prophets in this government. They have seen it ahead, and that is why January 13th this year, President Muhammadu Buhari signed the Finance Act, which increased the value-added tax from 5% to 7.5%.
Yes.
That time, we're not even planning that coronavirus and all this GDP will come. And these taxes have been increased already. Okay. And citizens are paying. Everybody is paying that money on a monthly basis. And that has increased the revenue for governments. I think that's a good commendation. But government should also help us to control the level of tax. Because government, the investors need to invest more this time, now that the GDP is negative. We also need to increase our spending, the consumption of goods and services. So if they continue to tax the citizens too much, it will affect the level of investment and the level of consumption. It means it's only the government expenditure that will be going up. So they should just maintain the status quo and see that consumption and investment are boosted, and that will help our GDP to come up.
Okay, recently again, just yesterday, the Central Bank of Nigeria also came up with another rate of the performance index for manufacturing sector dropping lower compared to what it was the other quarter, and with about, according to the report, only 6 subsectors experience what we call a positive trend, while about 8 subsectors depreciated, or they recorded depression in that subsector, so to say. What does this portend to an ordinary Nigerian?
Yes, what I would say is that this analysis, these results, they were a result of the last quarter, and we all know what happened in the last quarter. To expect them that they shouldn't have any money, because there was no business. So that's why we have such results. And now that their business is coming up gradually, so also the results will also be coming up gradually.
So before you go now, what is your advice to the Nigerian people, especially those of them that are watching us in this program?
My advice for the Nigerian people is that this is not a period to begin to spend, to lavish money. It's a period to actually spend on what is actually important. And what are the important things to spend on? We have food, shelter, and clothing. Every other spending that are luxury should be reduced. Let's reduce our luxury spending. Even the nations of the world, the big countries, our big brothers, United Kingdom, USA, they are not spending on luxury items for now, because this is the time to actually save. Even if you have the money, why don't you save some money for yourself instead of just spending and spending? Just spend on the things that you feel that are so important for you to spend on. And I think we can now, because of that, to swim across this period that we are. And when the economy is getting better, we can begin to enjoy ourselves again.
How about taking advantage of the various intervention programs rolled out by the administration?
Yes, we have announced that severally. We have encouraged entrepreneurs to come out, take advantage of these programs. Just like I mentioned, the Minister of Youth also said there will be Youth Development Fund available. Let our youth, let people come out and apply for these things and get them, and not for them to go and spend. That's what I'm saying now. It's for them to go and invest. Invest in a business, invest in any sector of the economy, and have another source of income. Individuals should also learn to diversify. Don't rely on salary. Have another business by side. Maybe it could be farming and all that.
Maybe agriculture for those of us in the public sector.
Don't rely on only salary. Have another business by the side, and everything will be better.
All right. Have another income by the side of your salary and by the side of your business. Mr. Ogunshola, I want to thank you so much for coming on this edition of our program. And that was our package on this edition. Ensure that wherever you are, remember to take personal responsibility against the spread of the novel coronavirus disease for a healthy economy. Have a great weekend.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وكم قصمنا من قرية كانت ظالمة وأنشأنا بعدها قوما آخرين. فلما أحسوا بأسنا إذا هم منها يركضون. لا تركضوا وارجعوا إلى ما أترفتم فيه ومساكنكم لعلكم تسألون. قالوا يا ويلنا إنا كنا ظالمين. فما زالت تلك دعواهم حتى جعلناهم حصيدا خامدين. وما خلقنا السماء والأرض وما بينهما لاعبين. لو أردنا أن نتخذ لهوا لاتخذناه من لدنا إن كنا فاعلين. بل نقذف بالحق على الباطل فيدمغه فإذا هو زاهق. ولكم الويل مما تصفون. وله من في السماوات والأرض ومن عنده لا يستكبرون عن عبادته ولا يستحسنون. يسبحون الليل والنهار لا يفترون. أم اتخذوا آلهة من الأرض هم ينشرون. لو كان فيهما بغتة فسبحان الله رب العرش عما يصفون لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون أم اتخذوا من دونه آلهة قل هاتوا برهانكم هذا ذكر من معي وذكر من قبلي بل أكثرهم لا يعلمون الحق فهم معرضون وما أرسلنا من قبلك من رسول إلا نوحي إليه أنه لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدون وقالوا اتخذ الرحمن ولدا سبحانه بل عباد مكرمون لا يسبقونه بالقول وهم بأمره يعملون يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يشفعون إلا لمن ارتضى وهم من خشيته مشفقون ومن يقل منهم إني إله من دونه فذلك نجزيه جهنم كذلك نجزي الظالمين أولم ير الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي أفلا يؤمنون وجعلنا في الأرض رواسي أن تميد بهم وجعلنا فيها فجاجا سبلا لعلهم يهتدون وجعلنا السماء سقفا محفوظا وهم عن آياتها معرضون وهو الذي خلق الليل والنهار والشمس والقمر كل في فلك يسبحون وما جعلنا لبشر من قبلك الخلد أفإن مت فهم الخالدون كل نفس ذائقة الموت ونبلوكم بالشر والخير فتنة وإلينا ترجعون صدق الله العظيم.
In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful.
How many were the populations we utterly destroyed because of their iniquities, setting up in their places other peoples? Yet when they felt our punishment coming, behold, they tried to flee from it. Flee not, but return to the good things of this life which were given you, and to your homes, in order that ye may be called to account. They said, Ah, woe to us! We were indeed wrongdoers, and that cry of theirs ceased not, till we made them as a field that is mown. as ashes silent and quenched. Not for idle sport did we create the heavens and the earth, and all that is between. If it had been our wish to take just a pastime, we should surely have taken it from the things nearest to us, if we would do such a thing. Nay, we hurl the truth against falsehood, and it knocks out its brain. And behold, falsehood doth perish. Ah, woe be to you for the false things ye ascribe to us. To him belong all creatures in the heavens and on earth. Even those who are in his very presence are not too proud to serve him, nor are they ever weary of his service. They celebrate his praise night and day, nor do they ever flag or intermit. Or have they taken for worship gods from the earth who can raise the dead? If there were in the heavens and the earth other gods besides Allah, there would have been confusion in both. But glory to Allah, the Lord of the throne. High is he above what they attribute to him. He cannot be questioned for his acts, but they will be questioned for theirs. Or have they taken for worship other gods besides him? Nay, bring your convincing proof. This is the message of those with me, and the message of those before me. But most of them know not the truth, and so turn away. Not a messenger did we send before thee, without this inspiration sent by us to him, that there is no God but I, therefore worship me and serve me. And they say, Allah most gracious has begotten offspring. Glory to him. They are but servants raised to honor. They speak not before he speaks, and they act in all things by his command. He knows what is before them and what is behind them, and they offer no intercession except for those who are acceptable, and they stand in awe and reverence of his glory. If any of them should say, I am a god besides him, such a one we should reward with hell. Thus do we reward those who do wrong. Do not the unbelievers see that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one unit of creation before we clove them asunder? We made from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? And we have set on the earth mountains standing firm, lest it should shake with them. And we have made therein broad highways between mountains for them to pass through, that they may receive guidance. And we made the heavens as a canopy well guarded, yet do they turn away from the signs which these things point to. It is he who created the night and the day, and the sun and the moon. All these celestial bodies swim along, each in its rounded course. We granted not to any man before thee permanent life here. If then thou shouldest die, would they live permanently? Every soul shall have a taste of death, and we test you by evil and by good, by way of trial. To us must ye return.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذا رآك الذين كفروا الإنسان من عجل سأريكم آياتي فلا تستعجلون ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين لو يعلم الذين كفروا حين لا يكفون عن وجوههم النار ولا عن ظهورهم ولا هم ينصرون بل تأتيهم بغتة فتبهتهم فلا يستطيعون ردها ولا هم ينظرون ولقد استهزئ برسل من قبلك فحاق بالذين سخروا منهم ما كانوا به يستهزئون قل من يكلؤكم بالليل والنهار من الرحمن بل هم عن ذكر ربهم معرضون أم لهم آلهة تمنعهم من دوننا لا يستطيعون نصر أنفسهم ولا هم منا يسحبون بل متعنا هؤلاء وآباءهم حتى طال عليهم العمر أفلا يرون أنا نأتي الأرض ننقصها من أطرافها أفهم الغالبون قل إنما أنذركم بالوحي ولا يسمع الصم الدعاء إذا ما ينذرون ولئن مستهم نفحة من عذاب ربك ليقولن يا ويلنا إنا كنا ظالمين ونضع الموازين القسط ليوم القيامة فلا تظلم نفس شيئا وإن كان مثقال حبة من خردل أتينا بها وكفى بنا حاسبين ولقد آتينا موسى وهارون الفرقان وضياء وذكرا للمتقين الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب وهم من الساعة مشركون وهذا ذكر مبارك أنزلناه أفأنتم له منكرون أم أنت من اللاعبين قال بل ربكم رب السماوات والأرض الذي فطرهن وأنا على ذلكم من الشاهدين وتالله لأكيدن أصنامكم بعد أن تولوا مدبرين صدق الله العظيم.
In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. When the unbelievers see thee, they treat thee not except with ridicule. Is this, they say, the one who talks of your gods? And they blaspheme at the mention of Allah, most gracious. Man is a creature of haste. Soon enough will I show you my signs, then ye will not ask me to hasten them. They say, when will this promise come to pass, if ye are telling the truth? If only the unbelievers knew the time when they will not be able to ward off the fire from their faces, nor yet from their backs, and when no help can reach them. Nay, it may come to them all of a sudden and confound them. No power will they have then to avert it, nor will they then get respite. Mocked were many messengers before thee, but their scoffers were hemmed in by the thing that they mocked. Say, who can keep you safe by night and by day from the wrath of Allah most gracious? Yet they turn away from the mention of their Lord. Or have they gods that can guard them from us? They have no power to aid themselves, nor can they be defended from us. Nay, we give the good things of this life to these men and their fathers, until the period grew long for them. See they not that we gradually reduce the land in their control from its outlying borders? Is it then they who will win? Say, I do but warn you according to revelation, that the deaf will not hear the call, even when they are warned. If but a breath of the wrath of thy Lord do touch them, they will then say, woe to us, we did wrong indeed. We shall set up scales of justice for the day of judgment, so that not a soul will be dealt with unjustly in the least. And if there be no more than the weight of a mustard seed, we will bring it to account, and enough are we to take account. In the past we granted to Moses and Aaron the criterion for judgment, and a light, and a message for those who would do right. Those who fear their Lord in their most secret thoughts, and who hold the hour of judgment in awe. And this is a blessed message which we have sent down. Will ye then reject it? We bestowed aforetime on Abraham his rectitude of conduct, and well were we acquainted with him. Behold, he said to his father and his people, what are these images to which ye are so assiduously devoted? They said, we found our fathers worshipping them. He said, indeed ye have been in manifest error, ye and your fathers. They said, have you brought us the truth, or are you one of those who jest? He said, nay, your Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth, he who created them from nothing, and I am a witness to this truth. And by Allah, I have a plan for your idols, after ye go away and turn your backs.
with abundant talents from the north to the south, east and west. Youths abound with multiple of creative abilities. Behold the convergence of all great talents in Nigeria. 30 housemates now have the opportunity to unleash their potential. To everyone who knows how to dream big, welcome to the big dream.
Big dreams, big dreams, big dreams, big dream, big dreams, big dreams, big dreams.
Big Dream Nigeria Talent Show.
Big Dreams TV Show 2020.
Exclusive to ASO Television.
Hand washing with soap and water. Turn on the tap, wet your hands with clean warm running water. In a case where there is no running water, make use of a Veronico bucket. Apply enough soap to cover all surfaces. Rub hands palm to palm in circular motions. Right palm over left dorsum with interlaced fingers and vice versa. Palm to palm with fingers interlaced. Backs of fingers to opposing palms with fingers interlocked. Rotational rubbing of left thumb clasped in right palm and vice versa. Rotational rubbing backwards and forwards with clasped fingers of right hand in left palm and vice versa. Rinse hands with running water. Dry hands thoroughly with paper towel. Use paper towel to turn off tap. Dispose paper towel in a waste container. Your hands are now safe. Hand washing with alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Apply the alcohol-based hand sanitizer in a cupped hand, covering all surfaces. Rub hands palm to palm. Right palm over left dorsum with interlaced fingers and vice versa. Palm to palm and fingers interlaced. Backs of fingers to opposing palms with interlocked fingers. Rotational rubbing of left thumb clasped in right palm and vice versa. Rotational rubbing backwards and clasped fingers of right hand and in left palm and vice versa. Allow hands to air dry and your hands are safe.
The things I've changed in my life to guarantee the health of those around me is practicing social distancing. This means if I'm in the same area with other people, I'm learning how to keep my distance between them by at least 1 meter. If you're wondering what 1 meter is, it's actually 3 steps, or the length of a broomstick. I've also reduced my movements by staying at home and only going out when absolutely necessary. I'm making the most of the situation by remaining connected with my loved ones, staying in shape, and discovering a new hobby. Reducing my movements gives me a better chance of keeping others safe and for them to keep me safe. My name is Dakori Egusi-Nakonde. Let's do our best to be safe for you, for others, and for your family.
This message is brought to you by the United Nations in conjunction with the Federal Government of Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Health, and the NCDC. Take responsibility. Stay safe.
I need the police.
that can respond to emergencies first.
I want the equipment I need to do my job.
I want a police that won't harass or arrest me for no just reason.
I want to be valued for my work, not feared by honest people.
I want a police that won't ask me anything for the boys.
I want a decent salary that is paid on time.
If it happen with good laws,
proper funding,
training,
and cooperation.
If it happen.
If it happen.
If it happen.
Where you dey go with face mask inside this lockdown? You don't turn doctor abi na nurse.
I want sharply enter market to make her for buy food stock for my family.
With face mask?
See you, face masks where them use cloth make like this one where I wear so. Na extra way for person to protect himself from to catch coronavirus. The one where they use so, not be the medical masks where doctors them they use. People need to wear face masks if they won't go anywhere where plenty people dey. Those people self know they feel fine, and even those people where they cough abi na sneeze, they need to still wear the face mask to protect themselves and the people where they around them.
So wait, e mean say because you dey use face mask, you no go come dey do other things where they say make we dey do to protect ourselves, abi?
No, so they wear only face mask no go protect us from the virus. So we must still give physical distancing. We must to wash our hand. We must to cover our mouth anytime where we won't cough or sneeze, and we must to clean all the places where we dey touch every time.
To dey wear only face mask, no dey protect person from to catch coronavirus.
This message now from the Federal and State Ministries of Health, Ministry of Information, NCDC, and them partners them.
حذرا يا إمام الأنبياء أنت في الوجدان حي أنت للعينين ضي أنت عند الحوض ري أنت هاد وصفي يا حبيبي يا محمد يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك يرتوي بالحب قلبي حبي خير رسل ربي من به أبصرت يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك يا نبي سلام عليك يا رسول سلام عليك يا حبيب سلام عليك صلوات الله عليك
محمد نبينا بنور هدينا من مكة حبيبي نوره سطع المدينة صلى صلاته حلت صفاته يا بخت اللي في ظله ماشي يشفع له في مماته محمد نبينا بنور هدينا من مكة حبيبي نوره سطع المدينة صلى صلاته
سند للمسلمين يا حبيبي يا محمد يا ابن عبد الله. تمت الرسالة تمام والحبيب مسك الختام. طول حياتي وفي صلاتي بدعى أصلي وراه. من أول يوم في عمري سمعت أبويا وأمي بيصلوا عليه.
اللهم صل عليه.
الله حببني في الإيمان حسسني بالأمان واتعلقت بيه.
اللهم صل وبارك عليه.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه. نفسي أشوفك في المنام